These are the 10 most controversial South Park episodes ever, starting at number 10 with the China problem, the episode about Butters and Eric defending the US from China. After watching the Beijing 2008 Olympics on television, Cartman has been plagued by nightmares about the Chinese, believing that they will invade America. He tries to warn his friends, but Kyle doesn't believe him and leaves. Then Cartman convinces Butters that China is going to take over America and kill Butters' parents. So Butters is convinced and decides to join Cartman's group, the American Liberation Front. Afterwards, Cartman and Butters dress up as stereotypical Chinese children and go to P.F. Chang's to try to trick the Chinese people into telling them when the invasion is set to occur. Okay, that's a bit too much, no? The two boys' antics begin to annoy everyone, but when they're asked to leave, they instead take the entire restaurant hostage. Cartman gives Butters a gun and tells him to fire at a man who's trying to escape. Butters promptly shoots the man in the pee-pee. The police arrive and try to enter the restaurant. Butters fires a warning shot and also hits the Chinese policeman in the pee-pee. Cartman gives up on his mission of saving America, and Butters shoots another man in the pee-pee, which really upsets Cartman since he thinks it's a very dirty move. And so, now mad at Butters, he gives up on the mission and tries to just surrender to the police. However, Cartman and Butters were able to sneak away after everyone got distracted when an officer happily announced they caught 2 rapists on the loose. So yeah, that's a pretty wild episode to start off on. And number 9 is With Apologies to Jesse Jackson, an episode about Randy ruining his life with only one word. Randy's on Wheel of Fortune and has made it to the bonus round. He's given the category People Who Annoy You, and at this point, the puzzle spells that. I'm not gonna say it. You can probably guess where this is going. Randy reluctantly answers the N-word, which stuns the audience and enrages the African-American audience members. The correct answer is then revealed to be naggers. Bro, that's a massive fumble. On the car ride home, Randy awkwardly tries to explain himself to his wife, but Sharon is disgusted and Stan is just beyond humiliated. Now, the next day, Stan goes to school knowing his father had just said the N-word on live television. Cartman says the event was the funniest thing I've ever seen, and Token will be mad at Stan for his father's actions. Token criticizes Stan for his lack of understanding how it feels to hear the slur and walks away. Now seeking forgiveness, Randy visits Jesse Jackson, a civil rights activist, to apologize. Jackson bends over his desk and tells Randy to apologize by kissing his buttocks. Randy does so, and a picture is taken, which is then put into the news. Meanwhile, Stan seeks out Token, expecting everything to be better now since his dad apologized, yet Token is still mad, saying, Jesse Jackson is not the emperor of black people, to which Stan replies, he told my dad he was. Meanwhile, Randy goes to the Laugh Factory, where he's singled out by black comedian Coyote Brown, who calls Randy a N-word guy, lovely nickname. Thereafter, the residents of South Park use the name against Randy, making him feel like an outcast, because basically he is at this point. Meanwhile, in further attempts to repair his reputation, Randy starts the Randy Marsh African American Scholarship Foundation. While all the rednecks hated Randy since they thought he betrayed them for not continuing the hate, the African American guys accepted him and worked together to get that term banned in the US, which actually worked. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that worked, but at least now that won't haunt Randy. And number 8 is Trapped in the Closet, the time when South Park took down an entire religion. Stan takes a free personality test offered by Scientologists on the street. After answering the questionnaire, Stan is informed that he is extremely depressed and therefore a perfect candidate for Scientology. They offer to help him for $240. Stan returns later and pays the Scientologists using the money that he'd been saving for a bicycle. He's then taken into an auditing room where an attendant reads his spirit levels using an E-meter. Stan has such a high reading that the Scientology headquarters is notified. There, the president of Scientology determines that Stan is a reincarnation of L. Ron, Scientology's founder and prophet. Later that night, a group of Scientologists gather outside the Marsh house to celebrate Hubbard's second coming. The president of Scientology arrives in a helicopter and talks with Stan's parents, who oppose Stan's participation entirely. Randy then sends Stan to his room since he's mad at Stan for paying $240 to join the religion. When Stan enters his room, he finds Tom Cruise waiting. He thinks Stan is actually Scientology's founder and is there for his validation. But Stan instead just comments that Cruise's acting is okay, but not as good as others. Cruise despairs and locks himself in Stan's closet. He refuses to come out despite numerous requests to come out of the closet. Several other celebrities, including John Travolta and R. Kelly, eventually join him in there. that took a turn. Later downstairs, the church president comes to his house and begs Stan to write new teachings as Hubbard. Stan shows his writings to the president, who initially approves of the work. When Stan suggests that Scientology should stop charging people for their services, the president admits to Stan that the church is in reality a global money-making scam. He asks that Stan continue with that in mind. Stan appears to agree though and just keeps on writing. The president introduces Stan to his followers. However, instead of presenting a new doctrine to them, Stan explains that he is not the reincarnation of Hubbard and that Scientology is in fact a scam. The outraged Scientologist celebrities leave the closet and vow to sue Stan. And with that, the episode just ends with Stan looking directly at the camera and shouting, "Okay, good, do it. I'm not scared of you, sue me." Stan is such a legend for that. Coming in at number 7 is It Hits the Fan, an episode about the time South Park freaked out about a cuss word. It all starts with Cartman bursting onto the scene, losing his mind because TV is about to break new ground. The word shit is going to be said on air for the first time ever. At the bus stop, Cartman drops the news to Stan, Kyle, and Kenny, and instantly Kyle's Lion King tickets become irrelevant. Everyone's hyped for what they believe will be a game changer for TV, all over one swear word. Kyle, however, isn't buying the excitement. He spends most of the episode questioning why people are losing their minds over such a small thing. The whole town gathers around their screens waiting for the big moment, when cop drama finally says the word. And at that, the town erupts in celebration. But once the word becomes okay to say on TV, things take a weird and disgusting turn. People across town start vomiting up their intestines, and the boys begin to notice that everyone's getting sick. Kyle, of course, does some digging and finds out that the word shit has historical ties to the Black Death. Because why wouldn't it? Meanwhile, Cartman keeps brushing off Kyle's concerns, but as more and more people start getting sick, it's getting hard to ignore that maybe saying the cursed word on TV wasn't such a good idea after all. This is where a group of medieval knights come in, no seriously. Apparently, these knights have been tasked with protecting the world from curse words, and now they're back to stop the chaos that's been unleashed. Their mission? Defeat the Gildon, an ancient dragon-like creature that gains power whenever people say cursed words. The Gildon shows up in the full fire-breathing glory after too many people start chanting shit during HBC's Night of a Million Shits. You can't make this stuff up. Of course, the boys and Chef have to save the day, using an ancient runestone to stop the Gildon and lift the curse. As Stan and Kyle wisely point out, keeping curse words special by using them sparingly is what makes them fun in the first place. Plus, it's probably best to avoid summoning medieval monsters. Number 6 is Britney's New Look, which is one of the darkest episodes in South Park history. Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Butters are half asleep on the couch, stuck watching a political debate. But just when you think the episode's going to be about boring adult stuff, an emergency news bulletin breaks in. It's Britney Spears, who has apparently peed on a ladybug while camping in Colorado. Randy gets hyped over this news, and soon the boys are on a mission. After hearing that a local photographer made $100,000 from a picture of Britney, they decide to try their luck at snapping a photo of her too. They track her down to a hotel in South Park, ready to cash in. The boys manage to sneak into Britney's hotel room by pretending to be her kids, classic South Park move. But things take a tragic turn when Britney, overwhelmed by the constant media harassment, pulls out a shotgun and attempts suicide right in front of them. Instead of dying, she survives, but loses the top half of her head, leaving only her lower jaw. Despite her horrific condition, the media frenzy doesn't let up. In fact, it only gets worse. Britney is wheeled into the hospital, but the paparazzi and media outlets continue to hound her, snapping pictures of her grotesque appearance and criticizing her for things as absurd as a boob job scar. It's clear that no matter what happens to her, the public and media will never leave her alone. Stan and Kyle begin to realize just how toxic this entire situation is, feeling responsible for pushing her over the edge. As they try to make amends and help Britney escape, they're caught in the relentless pursuit of the paparazzi. The boys decide to take her to the North Pole, believing it's like the only place where she can be at peace. But in a shocking twist, they learn that Britney's destruction is not just a result of media frenzy, it's part of a much bigger, darker ritual where the townsfolk sacrifice her in hopes of a successful corn harvest. Yeah, that's really what happens. The crowd overwhelms her and compulsively photographs her to death, leaving Stan and Kyle shocked in horror. Time passes and the residents shop at a supermarket following the harvest. A news report is broadcast on TV reporting that Miley Cyrus is rapidly rising in popularity. The townsfolk thus see her as their next target. So Stan and Kyle reluctantly join in their chant, having given up all hope of reasoning with them. I've got no words on that episode. Just wow. At number 5, we have Osama bin Laden has farty pants, an episode about the boys going through one of the hardest times in human history. This episode aired shortly after the 9/11 attacks and tackles tackles the post-9/11 atmosphere, so it begins with the boys decked out in gas masks at the bus stop, concerned about the smoke. When they arrive at school, Miss Chucksondick announces that the class is going to send $1 to the children of Afghanistan to help them survive while the US invades them to destroy the terrorist groups there. Cartman's selfishness takes center stage as he refuses to give up his dollar. Wendy, of course, tries to knock some sense into him, but it's Cartman we're talking about, so no, that's not gonna work. Later, the boys receive a mysterious package from Afghanistan, a goat! The kids are told it's a gift from the Afghan children in return for the $4 they sent. With the goat now in their hands, the boys decide to mail it back to Afghanistan, but when that doesn't work, they end up stowing it away on a military plane headed for Afghanistan. Once there, things take a bizarre yet funny turn. The boys meet their Afghan counterparts, mirror images of themselves, and discover that not everyone in Afghanistan is a terrorist. However, the Afghan boys express their disdain for America, leading to a comedic culture clash between the two groups. The parallels between the two sets of boys show that while they do come from different worlds, they're more alike than they realize, except for the fact that the Afghan boys still frackin' hate them. Meanwhile, Cartman finds himself face to face with Osama bin Laden, and in classic South Park fashion, Cartman manages to outwit and humiliate the terrorist leader, turning what could be a tense moment into pure ridiculousness. The episode pokes fun at bin Laden, portraying him as a bumbling fool, while Cartman's antics, including dressing up and tricking bin Laden into kissing a camel, make for one of the most absurd and memorable confrontations in the show's history. By the end of the episode, the boys, despite all the chaos, reaffirm their love for America, flawed as it may be. Number 4 is Hell on Earth 2006, an episode about Satan's Super Sweet 16, and it's so exclusive, even the demons in hell are left scrambling for invites. You see, the King of Darkness is feeling a bit underappreciated, so he decides to throw the biggest bash hell has ever seen. And if you think it's just any party, ho, think again. He's going full-on MTV, complete with wristbands, a no-crow costume policy, and some seriously strict entry rules. Because what's hell without a little exclusivity, right? Meanwhile, back at Earth, the boys are dealing with their own set of supernatural shenanigans. Carl is peer pressured into summoning Biggie Smalls by saying his name 3 times in the mirror because South Park is never shy about pushing boundaries. And wouldn't you know it, Biggie actually shows up, guns a-blazing, ready to bust some caps for being disturbed in the afterlife. Classic Biggie. The twist is that it's Butters who ends up summoning Biggie later, and now he's got a pissed off ghost threatening to pop a cap at him if he doesn't get to Satan's party in LA. Back in hell, Satan's party planning is getting out of control. He's stressing over details like the dessert, a Ferrari cake, because apparently the simple fondue fountain would be too P. Diddy. This scene brings in all the laughs, with Satan getting absurdly angry over every little thing. The demons, led by Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy, yep, those guys, are tasked with picking up the cake, but things go south very quickly. After killing the bakers, their mission turns into chaos as every time they try to enlist someone's help, Gacy kills them, and Dahmer does Dahmer things. Ted Bundy, frustrated, tries to ring them in, but his attempts at discipline only make things worse. At one point, they destroy the original cake while trying to lift it, leaving them with no choice but to bake a new one. In the process of trying to bake a replacement, though, they turn on each other. Big shocker. Gacy pokes Bundy's eye out, Bundy retaliates by forcing Gacy's eyes out as well, and Dahmer just stabs Bundy. The fight escalates to the point where Bundy rips out Dahmer's tongue, leaving a trail of blood and mutilated bodies in their wake. With the killers incapacitated, Satan's assistant Demonius scrambles for a last-minute solution, finding a Ferrari-shaped cake substitute that's actually an Acura, but we don't talk about that. But when the Acura cake is revealed at the party, oh boy, Satan loses it. But Satan realizes he's acting just like the entitled kids he despises. Even when his minions try to reassure him that he's not as bad, Satan disagrees. He apologizes to the crowd, acknowledging that the party should be for the people who make his life special, not just about his own ego. With that realization, he invites everyone in, including the Catholic priests who've been trying to crash the party this whole time. And the episode ends with everyone dancing, including the Catholic priests, adding a final bizarre touch to the chaos. At number 3, we've got Crazy Cripples, an episode about the time Jimmy got mad at Christopher Reeves for ruining his life. Everyone's ditching Jimmy's comedy show to see Reeve, and Jimmy's just not having it. He's been crippled from birth, okay? Like, why should Reeve get all the glory just because he became paralyzed later in life? It's a battle of the cripples, and things get hilariously heated. Jimmy's frustration boils over when he confronts the boys, but they're too busy fawning over Reeve. Even Kyle and Stan know better than to get involved in this one. The tension is real, and Jimmy feels like he's been overshadowed by a celebrity who, in his mind, hasn't truly earned the cripple status. Jimmy's got a chip on his shoulder, and what better way to channel that rage than to start a gang? That's right, Jimmy and Timmy decide to form their own gang, the Crips. After designing their t-shirts and thinking that they've come up with something original, a quick reality check from Mr. McGillicuddy at the t-shirt shop lets them know the real Crips are already taken. Undeterred though, Jimmy and Timmy head to Denver's 5 Points area to meet the real deal. And this is where the episode cranks up the absurdity. Jimmy and Timmy, completely oblivious to what a gang actually is, manage to introduce themselves to the 5 Points Crips and convince them that they're true-born Crips. The gang is skeptical, but they tell Jimmy and Timmy that to prove their loyalty, they have to take out some punk-ass bloods. Naturally, they assume that they're just buying ginger ale and marshmallows for the gang, because why wouldn't they? But in true South Park fashion, things go terribly wrong when a truck accidentally crashes into a store, killing a bunch of bloods. Jimmy and Timmy unknowingly become the baddest Crips in town. The gang celebrates their success with a dance-off, completely unaware of how they've earned their new street cred. Jimmy's convinced that they finally made it, and in his mind, this is the start of something big. But soon, Jimmy starts to feel the heat after his house gets shot up by the bloods in retaliation. Things have escalated way too far for Jimmy, and he realizes it's time to put an end to the gang war between the Crips and the Bloods. His solution is a classic lock-in at the rec center where he hopes to unite both gangs over pizza and pool time. And it actually works. Through some solid South Park logic, Jimmy's heartfelt speech, punctuated with a signature line, "Come on," somehow gets both gangs to put their weapons down and just hang out together. The lock-in is a success, and the Bloods and Crips end the night as best buds while Jimmy reflects on his misplaced anger towards Christopher Reeve. The lesson? Sometimes getting along is better than player hating. At number 2, we've got Scott Tenman Must Die, the most twisted, diabolical, and unforgettable episode in South Park history. The episode starts off innocently enough. Cartman's cruising down the street singing like he's on top of the world. Of course, Kyle's quick to call him out, asking why he's so damn happy. Cartman proudly announces that he's the first one of them to hit manhood because, drumroll please, he bought his first pubes. Yep. But he paid Scott Tenman, a 9th grader, $10 for his pubes. Anyway, Stan and Kyle immediately start roasting him, telling him he's a complete idiot for paying money for something he's supposed to grow himself. Cartman, still holding those precious pubes, storms off, muttering that he's gonna get back at Scott Tenman for this. You know, when Cartman's pissed, something bad is brewing, and oh boy, does he have a hell of a plan up his sleeves. Cartman shows up at Scott's house demanding a refund, and of course, Scott laughs him off like Cartman's a joke, and let's face it, he kinda is. And Cartman left even angrier. Scott even manages to trick Cartman again, giving him a fake trade for his money back, leaving him all fuming. But Cartman doesn't give up that easily, alright? He devises a series of increasingly absurd schemes to get his money back, posing as an IRS agent with Scott's pubes glued to his face, trying to sell Scott on the idea of a fake pube fair. But when all these ridiculous plans fail, Cartman gets desperate, and I'm talking really desperate. He decides that he's going to destroy Scott's life in a way no one could have ever predicted. He finds out Scott is a huge Radiohead fan and plots the ultimate revenge. He tricks Scott into thinking Radiohead will show up in town, all while planning something far darker. The day of the ChiliCon Carnival arrives, and Cartman pulls out all the stops. Scott shows up thinking he's won, and he even brings his own chili, only Cartman is one step ahead. When Cartman tells Scott that he's switched the chili, Scott's confused. Cartman reveals that Scott's chili was actually made by his own parents' remains. Yep, Cartman had gotten Scott's parents killed by a crazy rancher, hacked up their bodies, and fed them to Scott and his chili. He literally made Scott eat his own parents. And just when you think it couldn't possibly get any worse for the poor dude, Radiohead shows up, Scott's idols, only to call him a crybaby and walk away. Cartman's gleeful revenge is complete as he licks Scott's tears, relishing every second of his misery. And at last, at number 1, we have an episode that was so controversial that it got banned. Pinewood Derby. We kick off with Stan and Randy in the basement, working on Stan's Pinewood Derby car. Well, Randy's the one who's actually working as usual. He's dead set on not losing to the Hollises again, and he's pulled out all the stops, including some questionable modifications. As Sharon reminds them it's 2 a.m., Randy brushes her off, determined to make sure Stan wins. Randy's secret weapon? A mysterious glowing ball he slips into the car. It's all very hush-hush, and Stan knows something is very off, but Randy's got his mind set on victory. Cut to the news. Apparently some high-tech equipment got stolen from a particle super collider in Switzerland, and who's the main suspect? Of course, none other than Randy, dressed up as Princess Leia, caught on camera in one of the most ridiculous heists ever. Stan, of course, is mortified. What's worse than your dad stealing scientific equipment? Him doing it in a Star Wars costume. Fast forward to the Pinewood Derby Colorado State Championship, and Randy's teaching Stan some life lessons about how to lie. Classic father-son bonding, right? Stan's clearly uncomfortable, but Randy's too hyped up about winning to care. When it's time to inspect the car, Stan is doing his best not to fidget and give away the fact that they've slightly modified the car. The official lets it slide, and Randy's got that "we've got away with it" grin. They're ready for the race, but the tension between them and the Hollises is palpable. Mr. Hollis is as smug as ever, bragging about how fast their car is, and Randy is just not having it. The race begins, and at first it looks like Emmett Hollis is going to win. But then Stan's car starts glitching, stretching, and rockets straight off the track through the wall into the sky, and then outer space. Yes, outer space. Everyone's jaws drop. Randy is jumping around like a madman, rubbing it in Hollis's face, but this isn't your regular Pinewood Derby anymore. Stan and Randy just discovered warp speed. They just broke the universe. Suddenly, Stan and Randy are local heroes. The news is blowing up about their record-breaking car. They're getting endorsement deals, riding on floats during parades, and basically being treated like celebrities. But things take a dark turn fast. Emmett Hollis is so devastated by the loss, he watches his dad take his own life, which really shocked him. That escalated quickly. Meanwhile, in space, the car has attracted some unwanted attention. An alien ship intercepts the car, and next thing you know, the Marsh family is getting a visit from the NSA. Apparently, the alien is now headed towards Earth, wanting to meet the human who discovered warp speed. Stan immediately knows that this is trouble. Randy freaks out, thinking they're about to get busted for cheating, but nope, this alien is not here for pleasantries. When the ship lands, an alien gangster named Baby Fark McGee Zax steps out, waving a ray gun, and demands they build him another warp drive, cause if not, the entire planet is toast. As you can imagine, the whole town is terrified, and Randy and Stan are scrambling to recreate the car, but there's a problem. Without the stolen superconductor, the car won't work the same. Stan's conscience is telling him to come clean, but Randy is in full denial. Things get worse when McGee Zax takes Stan hostage. Stan, caught in the middle of this mess, is forced to make a choice: help his dad build the car or take drastic action. When Randy hands Stan a makeshift shank and tells him to kill the alien, Stan hesitates. But when McGee Zax gets close enough, he does end up striking, stabbing the alien in the neck. It's a really brutal moment, but in true Randy fashion, he's proud of Stan for getting the job done. The alien dies, and everyone thinks it's over, but of course, things can't end that easily. Inside McGee Zax's ship, they find a massive pile of space cash. Instead of calling the intergalactic police back, Randy and the others decide to keep it for themselves. Cause what could possibly go wrong, right? Soon, the rest of the world gets involved, and it becomes a global free-for-all. Countries are secretly spreading the space cash on water parks and new infrastructure, all while swearing they haven't seen a dime. Stan's conscience continues to weigh on him, though. He knows they cheated from the beginning. The cover-up is in full swing, but Stan just can't take it anymore. In front of the whole town, he gives up his Pinewood Derby trophy, admitting that they cheated. It's a heartfelt moment, but Randy's too far gone to understand why it matters. The alien police return, revealing that this was all a test to see if Earth was ready to join the Galactic Federation. Turns out, no. Humanity failed miserably. The space cash was worthless, and Earth is now permanently cut off from the rest of the universe. Randy's left in shock, realizing he was outsmarted again. And that, folks, is how Randy Marsh managed to screw over the entire planet with one little Pinewood Derby car. Let me know if I missed any episodes, and I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching, y'all!